The British fisherman, or should it be fisher person, well, is benefiting from Brexit. According to the Tory Graph, the Daily Fire, Express and various others, they say that Britain is going to benefit from the CPTPP. Yeah, the Trans-Pacific Partnership. Okay, maybe. Well, I asked them, how on earth are you going to get your fish to the Pacific? Alive? Frozen, you're going to say? Oh, okay. Well, that devalues it for a start. Well, you're not going to be transporting your lobsters and your crabs and stuff like that in tanks, are you? Not that far. They'll be dead before they get there. Quite often they're dead before they get to France, and they're not going to get that far, are they? No. Well, post-Brexit has been an absolute disaster for the fishermen. But Alexander Boris Johnson said that the British fishing industry will benefit by £34 million. No. No, you could argue that the British fishermen are able to fish more fish. The only problem is they're having to cover the additional costs of export. Because us in Britain, we don't seem to want to eat it. Don't know why, but we don't. We don't fish the fish that you eat. We don't fish the fish that is in your fish and chip shop. And they're closing, well, what, 1 in 3 have closed last year? Fish and chip shops. It's become too expensive. Cotton chips, or as they say, fish and chips now, don't they? Yeah, your fish and chips. It was about 14 quid. You tell me, leave it in the comments. How much can you get your cod and chips for? Where do you live? In the UK. It used to be a pauper's meal. Yeah. Not anymore. No. It's flipping luxury. Well, as a bit of a crab's eye view of Brexit, British seafood is still actually, well, it's still prized in France and Spain, etc. Far more than it is in the United Kingdom. Because we don't eat the stuff. No. Do you eat, well, don't eat, whatever you do, don't eat any bivalve mollusks, because they're full of poo. Don't eat them. No, definitely not now. Well, anyway, because poop everywhere, so don't eat it, and they're filter feeders, so yeah, don't do that. So, yeah, so France and Spain, they still want our fish, and we're still exporting there. It hasn't actually halted, it's still going on. It hasn't actually slowed, really. It's just become considerably more expensive. So the path from like sea to stovetop now is, it's like fraught with multiple obstacles. Yeah. It's all these vexing regulations, red tape, bureaucracy. That Brexit has thrust upon the likes of Paul Knight's shellfish exporting business. Now he's, well, one thing he finds rather absurd is the fact that he now has to get all his crabs and lobsters, etc. he's sending to France and Spain. They're all got to be, well, certified by a veterinarian, which he has to go up to Glasgow to get done. So to and fro. Not very environmental, is it? No. Besides, you don't have to take your pet lobster, do you, to the vet? No. You just need a worming tablet. Anyway, Brexit has tied Mr. Knight and other Scottish fish exports in absolute knots, adding reams of paperwork and extra checkpoints. And that delay, that's the key thing, that delay is of transport of live, not mollusks in this case, because you can't actually transport them, but like the shellfish, such as the lobsters, langoustines, and crabs and what have you, it's causing them to die en route. The percentage of survival is way down. Now before, you know, they get fished in the morning and be, well, there's a possibility to be on the plate in France or Spain in the afternoon or evening. But not anymore, no. since the full effect Brexit came in January 2021. The Brexit ended that era of easy trade with markets in continental Europe. 447 million people. And it could further, beyond that as well. And Mr. Knight likens the impact to a bomb that's exploding underneath his business. He's finding that he's having to do a darn sight more work than he had to do before to make the same amount of money. 7 days a week now. Well, that breaks up families, that does. So the impact has also been felt right through the shellfish trade. Fishing in general, actually. For fishing crews such as in Scottish Islands that catch lobster, crab and langoustines, right through to those who serve it to their customers in the upmarket restaurants and in France, what have you. Because the prices have gone up. Everything's become more expensive because of all the paperwork, you see. It's not very helpful, is it? No. And one fisherman, well, like I say, he's a fish person. what would be the politically correct terminology for this? Anyway, Donald MacDonald. Oh, this wasn't Ronald. Anyway, Donald MacDonald is a fisherman, and he says that none of his catch stays in Britain. In fact, the catch is the start of a 900-mile journey to his customers in France, who will pay top dollar for seafood. And most, British people, they rarely eat it. I can keep saying it because I think it's mad. Why wouldn't you eat lobster? That'd bring the prices down. So Donald MacDonald, Brexit he is. So yeah, I bet he's feeling a bit stupid, and so he should. He's inflicted on everybody, remember. Well, he sells his catch. It used to be relatively simple to do so before Brexit was a thing. He didn't think this through, did he? I don't feel sorry for him, to be honest. I just think he's an idiot. I'm sorry, I'll say it as it is. I've had enough of fucking biting my tongue about people now, because say it as it is. It's driving me insane. It really is. It's just the cognitive dissonance. It's the tribalism. What's it, Dunning-Kruger effect or something? It's madness. Absolute madness. The country's falling apart around you, and either you don't say anything, not you, obviously, but Brexiters also, they don't sort of say anything because they don't admit their Brexit is broke. Well, it was always going to be broken, but it was broken. I wasn't the Brexit I voted for. I just wanted the Brexit. They go, all that sort of rubbish, Bollocks. Sorry, but it's absolute bollocks, because quite frankly, it's always going to be like this. Always was. In fact, it could have been a darn sight worse. Now they've got all this paperwork. Reams of paperwork. I mean, it's just absolutely painful, it is. It's about £600 a load to conduct the paperwork. And because they try to do it themselves in many cases, including this geezer, Mr. Knight, the exporter, well, poor Knight, he was saying that, it's so easy to make mistakes. The slightest error and your whole catch is worthless because you're not going to get, you got that far. What are you going to do with it? It's already started decaying. It's already started dying. I didn't live so long like that, Well, it was a costly nightmare, he says. So he had to employ the services of a specialist company, pushing up his costs. And then we've got one, Mr. Mackay. They make speakers. Anyway, he's 62 years old. And he's never actually supported Britain's withdrawal from the EU. So he tells us now, yeah. And he's fished Scottish waters for decades. And he estimates that the reduced fishing time is costing him more than £20,000 to £25,000 a year. And he's just a small fisherman. Means more bureaucracy just means, there's less time fishing. It's obvious, really, isn't it? It's just aggro. And the documentation the fishermen themselves have to provide to prove where the fish come from, blah, 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 it goes on and on and on. There's just too many downsides of Brexit. There's no positives. Not for Britain. No. Now they say Brexit is a torment. It's horrendous. Well, at least that's what Mr. Paul Knight said. It's absolute madness. I just don't know what to say. It's just... It is madness. It's just frustrating. And I've said this before in previous videos, but you have to accept where the problem lies if you are to fix it. You're never going to mend this unless you actually accept that Brexit is causing it. But no, we just get the rhetoric saying it's, I don't know, the pandemic, or it's a war in Ukraine, or it's Joe Blogs over there, it's Labour's poster, or something. It's everybody else by what it actually is. And until you accept it, you're never going to fix it. And you're going to be going round in circles constantly. Perpetual motion. Yeah. Oh, they can harvest it. So, Paul estimates that the extra work to his business as PDK, fish exporters, he says it's costing him an additional £150,000 a year. Money that he has to make up by increasing exports. And to do that, he's having to work every hour God sends. Well, in an anomaly, though, of commerce, Britain is surrounded with bountiful waters and imports pretty much all its seafood that it eats. Typically, cod for fish and chips, yet exports much of what it catches. But to be honest, we don't actually catch cod. It's not one of our main catches around the British coastline, no. Pollock, you know. And you might have noticed when you go to your fish and chip shop, your fish and chip shop, in many cases they say fish and chips. They're not necessarily telling you what the fish is. It's whatever's available, you see, at the right price. Probably pollock. No. And then obviously, it will also import things like crab, lobster, and langoustines. Yeah. It's crazy, isn't it? And yet we've got our own. Importing all this stuff, and we've got, it doesn't make any sense. So each week, PDK Shellfish sends several large trucks from Portside Depot at Oban to France and Spain, filled with tons of seafood, and it has to be kept alive in large tanks of seawater. So you can see where we're going with this. How the hell are you going to get that stuff to the Pacific? Yeah, for the CPTPP. Oh. So these big tanks are like full of seawater, and they've got air running through them, what have you, to, keep it oxygenated. Just keep it alive as long as possible. But because there's nothing in there for them to eat, in the sense, little animal things in the sea. They don't last long, and also it's not natural for them, is it? So the cargo usually include, like say, crab, lobster, from the Dignity J, and langoustine from boat, the Fern. Now, every delivery is a race against time, and dead shellfish is absolutely worthless. And the longer it's out of the sea, the greater the chance it's just going to perish. And Brexit, well, it's worsened the odds. Or maybe you're a fisherman, or maybe you was a fisherman one time. How do you feel about the European Union? Is it something that, has been driven into your minds that it's such a bad thing? The common, the fishing policy? It looks so good now, is it? No. And even with the CPTPP, unless you're just going to be selling all frozen fish over there, if that is even possible. Remember, they've got their own seas. Yeah, bigger than our seas. Well, they're warmer seas, mind. So it'll be different fish, probably. Anyway, you tell me. Please leave it in the comments down below. How do you feel about this? And do you know anyone who's suffering because of Brexit? Leave that in the comments down below, because Brexit is broken. It always was broken, and it's broken in its DNA. If you want to support the channel, you can do it on Patreon or buy us a coffee, and the links are down below. We also plant 1,000 trees on 2 hectares of land for you to be part of that. There's a link down below. There's a GoFundMe link, and you can buy a tree, and we will plant a tree on your behalf. Also put a sign with that tree, a bit like these signs that are behind my head there. And give me memory of a loved one as well if you want, or your name or whatever. So anyway, I think it's time to go. Well, please boot the old like button. Helps the channel, you know. So, ta-ta.